Hello students, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to 43rd weekly magazine where we'll be covering from 17th December to 23rd December 2017. It's really happy to inform you guys that most of the students, especially mains writing students, have got benefited from this magazine series where several students have written that some of the issues which we were discussing had really helped them, and that has helped them to see success as well. So just to intimate you that whatever you are following, follow it strictly and completely, so that there will be some link with whatever we are explaining and you will be in a position to understand. So the only thing is just try to follow one or two magazines or courses at max rather than doing multiple things. And second important thing, have consistency in that. For example, sometimes we take up certain issues in previous classes and we just try to explain the overview of that in another magazine. So if you just think that okay, this is the only thing that he has explained or so, then you may not get the concept, and later again if you leave two to three magazines and later if you follow again, you won't get the link. Every week if you can spend some half an hour time with us, we will definitely help you in understanding the core concepts that are happening in the world, so it would be easy for us to clear most of the issues that are present, right? So let's quickly see what are the issues that are there in that particular week. The essay of the week is actually with respect to self-reform automatically brings about social reform, where we are talking about Gandhiji's slogan in a different sense, where they say that if an individual tries to correct himself, then he can correct the society as well. So every individual, if he tries to correct himself, then definitely it would have greater impact on the society as well. So from this point of view, try to see what are the things that you need to do at the personal level and what impact will it have in the family, society, nation, world. So if you can actually go about this, then it would be very helpful in analyzing and giving answers to philosophical based questions. The next important issue that you need to focus from geography point of view, optional point of view, or if it is with respect to environmental point of view as well, is with respect to urban heat island effect. A team of researchers from IIT Bhubaneswar, not only this, people across the world are actually looking at this issue seriously, and they are trying to understand what exactly is happening in the world, especially when it comes to urban spaces. So, you are all aware that climate change is one impact which is affecting the globe. But urban heat island is just a phenomena which we are seeing, and in future the same thing, if we can elaborate it, will be the consequence that we observe in the world as well. So what exactly is the urban heat island? So whenever we look at our urban areas, what is the basic difference between urban and rural areas? Most of the people are associated with industrial activities, and agricultural activities are nowadays completely absent, right? Due to this, the vegetation or green cover is not present in the urban areas at all. Due to this, what happens? If you have green cover or so, then the heat or energy received by the plants usually convert them through photosynthesis into food and other things, right? Now what happens if the trees are not there? Then the rays will fall directly on the buildings, roads, or earth absorbs it. Whenever earth absorbs the heat, it radiates long wave energy back. Whenever long wave energy is emitted, the particles like carbon dioxide, methane, all this has a tendency to absorb them, and in turn these particles try to emit the heat they absorb back to earth. So again what happens? Again the earth emits back. So usually what observe is when the sun's rays is actually falling on the earth's surface, it comes and hits, and if you have a particle, hits, comes back, and if you have another particle, it will be present. So the heat gets trapped. So for this, first important thing is we need to prevent the incoming solar radiation or the solar radiation reaching the Earth's surface completely. For this, trees would be beneficial. Second important thing, nowadays the buildings, concretes, roads and other things whichever is present in the urban area usually absorbs more heat. After absorbing, they emit long wave radiation which is easily absorbed by carbon dioxide and all. Here you should be aware that carbon dioxide and all do not absorb incoming solar radiation, but they absorb outgoing terrestrial radiation. So buildings or anything, if they absorb more, they again emit more long wave radiations, and these long wave radiations are absorbed by carbon dioxide and they will again emit back to Earth. So this process, if it has to stop, then what is more important, any buildings or any surfaces which absorbs more heat should be avoided. For this, what is being prescribed by the scientists across the world is go for light color paints rather than dark color paints, because light color paints usually absorb less and reflects more, whereas when we talk about the dark color absorb more. So black absorbs more, white reflects more. That's the reason different parts of the world, based on the climatic conditions, they wear different clothes. Now what is more important for us here, first we spoke about the greenery. If you increase, they absorb sun's rays and it uses it for photosynthesis and others. Second important thing, if buildings and others are there, they don't absorb of light color and they reflect more light. So when reflection take place, rather than reflecting the long wave, it will be reflecting the short wave itself, which is not absorbed by carbon dioxide and all. So this is the second important thing that we need to see. And the third most important thing that we have to observe is with respect to industries which emits carbon dioxide and all. If at all you're going for energy production through thermal energy, rather than that, go for renewable energy resources which do not release carbon dioxide much. And pollution by the vehicles are also adding to more greenhouse gases. If you add more greenhouse gases, then the energy will be trapped or heat will be trapped. So this is one of the major problem that we are actually facing. So guys, I hope it is clear. We are talking about the urban heat island. So in urban areas, heat island is occurring because of this. Now what happens if you have, see guys, if at all there is moisture present, these particles will actually act as aerosols for the clouds to form, and once clouds are formed, these clouds give heavy rainfall. But if it is associated with sulfur dioxide or something, then acid rain may also be seen in this region. So if you look at the villages or surrounding areas, the villages have greeneries and they do not have the concretes and all which absorb more, but plants absorb more, which converts it, so the energy is utilized better. Lack of industrial pollution, and also when we talk about the pollutants, we observe that then there is no problem at all for the development, or there is no problem with respect to heat accumulation in the rural areas. So urban areas are extremely hot, rural areas are not hot. So we call it as urban heat island, and the surrounding areas are a little bit cool. Very, very important for our analysis. So guys, this issue is important for us. I hope it's clear. So let's quickly move to next topic. From the governance point of view, one major issue that has occurred, and this can be seen as good practices of the country, that is with respect to social auditing, which has become a law. You all are aware that government has launched several schemes and lot of money flows into these schemes. Unfortunately, implementation when it comes, the government is ineffective, not only in implementing but also getting it audited. You know that there are several cases and you have CAG or others who audit it. Usually, civil societies used to ensure that to ensure some sort of transparency in the new public administration, they took in charge of dealing with certain issues. That is, they started auditing with the help of the public. But governments never mandated it through law. For the first time, Meghalaya has actually taken this initiative where it has made it a law where the public will actually audit how much resources has been brought, whether the roads are really constructed, and if it is constructed, what is the guarantee. For example, whenever a tender is being called for, then there are certain clauses that a road has to be constructed and the maintenance has to be done for 4 years or 5 years or something, and if there is any problem, then the money has to be repaid. All these things will be there. Unfortunately, neither the public will be knowing or the government officials will not go back and check it. Even if they want to check, because of the frequent transfers and all, the new people who come will not be bothered about this. And in some places, because of the nexus between the politicians and the administrators or the people who are implementing it, there won't be strict implementation of the audit at all. Now, with the help of public, that is, when we say public is actually coming and auditing it, then the benefit of this is that this will directly reach to the officials who are involved, and they can audit it directly and see whether the resources that are actually used are beneficial or not. And we are also talking about the e-panchayats and others, from where directly, if the Niti Aayog and others can receive information about this particular issue, then it will be very, very easy for the government to audit it completely. So guys, it's very, very important for you to know about the social audits which can be asked, because this is seen as a good practice by the government and it may be implemented in other states as well. As you're writing for next year mains, this will be very, very crucial for you to follow in further lectures as well. After Rahul Gandhi becoming the president of Congress party, there is a debate happening in the country with respect to intra-party democracy. That is, there is democracy in the country, but unfortunately in the political parties, we do not see any sort of democracy. This has become a single individual oriented or family oriented charismatic leadership, rather than from the grassroots level allowing the people to talk. And this has shown its true colors when it comes to implementing or supporting or debating the bills in the parliament as well. For example, today, when there is no democracy within the party, and if you cannot question the policies of the party, it is not mandatory for any MP or MLA to strictly vote according to the party, because if he really likes that Swachh Bharat Abhiyan or GST or something is good for the country, and he can say it's good for the country and vote for it, even if he is in another party. But the problem today is the whip will come into force, and it is mandatory for them to criticize it. So earlier in our system, we had something called as, you have ministers, council of ministers, where it is mandatory for the council of ministers to debate and discuss internally. Once they agree, they should come out and discuss that yes, we have agreed, and stand by whatever they have agreed for. And if the government has accepted it or if the parliament has passed it, it is mandatory for them to follow it. But this has been into the party systems as well, where if the head of the party or if anyone takes a particular stance, then the entire party takes the same stance. And if they take an other stand which may be correct according to them, then usually what happens is they may be removed from the political party. We saw recently in JDU's case that they attended others' rallies, or they were supporting some other bills, or they were opposing some bills. These are not the proper way to function in democracy. Democracy doesn't mean conducting elections alone, but you need to allow space for every MP to discuss and debate about the issue which is present. And if it is beneficial for a particular MP, let it be, where he will be in a position to support the ruling party, whereas the ruling party member should be also given equal opportunity to oppose the bill. if he does not like it, forget about voting on the bill not being passed. At least give that space for the debate to continue in the country, so that different ideas will come up, and every state is different and every MP is different, and when he is different and when he is representing the people, if his voice can be heard at every level, then it would have great impact in reaching out these things to the people as well. So don't think that intra-party democracy is not an issue. If you do not have intra-party democracy, then what sort of democracy will you expect outside as well? And when they become ministers, they just follow the rules of one particular family or a member, rather than considering their own things which will be beneficial for the society at large. So we are indirectly killing the spaces that are actually available for the individual and the country to grow. Many liberal thinkers, especially when they spoke about democracy, one important thing they actually said was, if you allow individual to think about in his own rationality, then it's easy for the society to develop, because he is free to think. When different people think individually, then when they are rational, then it is easy for them to come together and work for the society. So individuals should be rational and allowed to think in liberal societies and democratic societies for the world to prosper. If we are talking about individuals, we should know how significant the MPs and MLAs who are elected representatives of the country as well. So guys, it's very, very important for us to read about these issues in detail, where you should know that whenever you read something, it should not be limited. It should be there for the expansionist form, where in the society, and if even we are talking about the global democracy, that should prevail. Just imagine what essay we thought of. Essay was actually with respect to, if at all you are regulating yourself, then the society also will be regulated. So what is the meaning of it? If at all you are regulating the party, then it will have greater impact on the democracy as well, or Indian democracy as well, in turn the world democracy as well. So this is what we need to understand. Every stage you can try to apply the concepts and try to bring its relevance to Indian society or Indian democracy, which has to move forward. The next important issue is actually with respect to BBIN Motor Pact. In the previous sessions as well, I have spoken about this, but I'll just try to give you a simple introduction to this. India is one of the major countries which is considered to be a significant player when it comes to successfully running SAARC. But unfortunately, Indo-Pakistan issues has overlapped all other developmental issues in SAARC. After Prime Minister Modi came to power, he understood the relevance of the neighboring countries, and the foreign policy of India turned out to be neighborhood first policy. Once the neighborhood first policy was introduced, and a new prime minister and a new political party was in power, India was in a position to actually try to talk with each one of this and try to address their problems. And as an initiative with respect to SAARC, we tried to go for motor vehicular agreement there as well. But what is the motor vehicular agreement? Free movement of trucks, goods and people across South Asia was what they were actually talking about. So we understand that due to security issues and all, we cannot expect the free movement of people. But at least trucks and goods, there should be free movement. That was what we were actually thinking about. But Pakistan rejected it on the basis of security. This again led to blockade in the SAARC. Now what happened? India understood that neither BIMSTEC is working nor SAARC is working. Why shouldn't we first start it with those countries which we are comfortable with? Sheikh Hasina, Bhutan, Nepal actually were comfortable working with India, and they had agreed for BBIN. So in 2015, by the initiative of Indian government, a motor vehicular agreement was passed. And everyone accepted it. The governments, they actually accepted it. But as you are aware, once the vehicles enter into the country, the state governments comes into picture and they will stop the vehicles, they will check it. There are many processes that needs to be taken up. So the parliaments, if they actually pass this, then it is very easy for it to be implemented in each and every country. So ratification of this was required. Bhutan parliament actually rejected it for the reason that most of the products or goods or vehicles, if it comes only from India, and we have already signed this agreement. But if we go for this may lead to SARC and other things in future, which may lead to easy movement of vehicles across Bhutan, and this may lead to pollution, which may create problem to the environment as well. Here you should remember one important thing, that Bhutan is carbon negative country. It is not carbon neutral, it is carbon negative. That is, it absorbs more carbon dioxide than it emits. So given that they actually feel that if we go for this, then there would be problem. So India was thinking that because of Bhutan, it is very difficult for us to implement, but Bhutan has recently said that we are happy about this. You can go ahead, but we are not in a position to actually enter into this as of now. We need some more time to enter into. So India has actually started this project. We call this as sub-regionalism. That is, within SARC we are actually planning to work on. So this is called as sub-regionalism. So guys, so if we look at SARC, it is regional organization. Within SARC, if you are working, it is sub-regionalism. So just try to look into this issue carefully. High possibility UPSC may ask you a prelim simple based question about it. The central government has introduced Representation of People Amendment Bill in the Parliament. So what exactly is this bill? We need to understand the significance of this bill. NRIs till now were allowed to come and vote in India physically. But now, if NRIs are outside, on behalf of them, you can actually go and vote in that particular booth. For that, the authorization letter has to be given. So NRIs participation in democracy will actually help them to be a part of the Indian political democracy as well. And this will help them to send more remittances, and also if these NRIs are playing a very important role in the polity of another country, then they may actually act as lobby there as well. So when we look at NRIs helping or participating in Indian democracy, that will help build the national consciousness in those people as well. So guys, from RPA point of view, this can be important. From prelims point of view, the factual data may be important for you. So just look into these factual information carefully. The next important issue that we need to focus is with respect to RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So let me explain this in detail. I have already explained it multiple times. So just let me go in detail and explain you about this. So actually, it is very difficult for WTO to come to any conclusion because there are almost 190 plus countries in WTO which are doing trade, and each country has one single vote. And due to this, it is very difficult for all the countries to accept any proposal. And almost it's been 14 to 15 years we did not get any major breakthrough in the talks. This is Bali package was the first one where we saw. Realizing this, United States of America, there was an organization by name Trans-Pacific Partnership already. So Obama and others, what they thought, it is important for us to go ahead with these organizations where like-minded people are present and make them adopt certain policies which will be beneficial for United States. One with respect to Pacific countries, another one with respect to Atlantic countries, especially European countries. So that was the economic strategy of Obama. So to counter that, the ASEAN countries they wanted to have another organization in the Pacific region because ASEAN dominates the Pacific region. Now, ASEAN has free trade agreement with 3 countries, and these 3 countries are Japan, South Korea, and China. And you should be aware that these 3 countries are also industrially very powerful. They are not agriculturally dominant, China to some extent, but they are not agriculturally dominant. They are basically industrial countries. So they can easily have any free trade agreement with ASEAN countries, which also focuses on industrial development. So ASEAN is also an industrially developed country. Now, if we actually look at ASEAN as a regional group, I'm just calling it as a country for your convenience. So ASEAN is a regional grouping which also focuses more on goods. Whereas when we talk about Japan, South Korea, China, they are also talking about goods. Now, what ASEAN thought, let us establish regional comprehensive economic partnership, which includes the 13 countries that I am talking, plus they also spoke about the 3 countries, that is India, Australia, and New Zealand. So these 16 countries will be part of what? Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Right? Now what these people will do? They will also try to counter the Trans-Pacific Partnership by having agreements similar to Trans-Pacific Partnership. But that will be between these 16 countries. Now what has happened? That's fine that we are talking about the 16 countries, we are countering United States of America, all this is fine. But the problem was these countries, especially the 15 countries which are industrially developed, they want to focus mostly on trade in goods. So they say that in between the countries, the movement of goods has to be simple, that is taxes has to be reduced. Whereas India is asking, that is fine, I will allow the goods, but allow my services to enter into your country or into your region. They are not interested in services, especially people going or services being provided. They are not interested in opening up their economy for services, but they are interested only in opening the market for goods where they have advantage rather than India having advantage. Make in India and others, if it becomes successful and if India becomes industrially developed, then I understand that yes, we can go to that stage. Unfortunately, India has not industrially developed much. So at this point of time, India is looking for services sector to be opened up, and these people are not interested in that. So India is very tough in its talks now, as United States of America has said or withdrawn from Trans-Pacific Partnership. The relevance for TPP has reduced. Now India has also taken tough stance in RCEP, where it has said that we are not interested if you are not opening up your market in services. You are asking us to open 90% of goods for easy access, whereas you are not allowing our services or personnel to come to your countries. This is not fair. So India is actually looking at this as not in its interest, and it may not sign or it may come out of this. RCEP had also threatened India twice by saying that if you are not interested to sign these agreements, you can go, rather than acting as a blockade. But India wanted to be present in one of a significant regional organization. Unfortunately, as this is not going in favor of India and in India's interest, we may have to withdraw from this as well. So guys, RCEP may be important from prelims point of view. Human beings, in order to conserve forests or to protect forests, what they have done, they have tried to introduce certain species in not their natural environments. You should be aware that when we talk about possibilism, that is human beings trying to create an environment where the things can grow on its own. When we try to create, we are trying to go against the nature. Whenever we go against the nature, every biodiversity has its own food chain, food web, And they are arranged in such a way that the balance can always be found. Whenever extreme things happens, there is a possibility that the nature will balance itself. Unfortunately, the human beings intentionally or unintentionally has introduced some alien species into the environment. Whenever he has introduced this, these have tried to invade into the spaces of others, and this has led to huge biodiversity loss. Sometimes they try to extinct the other species which was important in that particular area as well. And these, when they go invasive and try to capture or eat as much as possible or take up the land or space of others, we usually observe that these species have threatened not only the environmental aspects but also economical aspects. So given this, we should be careful about the invasive alien species, and from prelims point of view, some examples we have given, just go through this once. National Disaster Management Authority is taking almost all the measures which are in right direction to ensure that India is disaster free. But unfortunately, if we have to do that, then we need to ensure that we need to build capacity of the people, trainers, whoever is participating, ministries, all this, to ensure that whenever disaster actually happens or whenever they identify a disaster risk, enough security measures should be taken with respect to that. NDMA is giving training to trainers for Sendai Framework. So let's understand what exactly is this. NDMA, along with the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, Global Education and Training Institute, they are collaborating with NDMA and they are planning to build the capacity of the participants to utilize defined indicators to monitor the progress of the Sendai targets. So they are trying to train the personals associated with the disaster, ministries, right? And whoever, even if it is at the level of participants from NGOs and all these people, training has to be provided so that the Sendai framework can be implemented properly. So what exactly is the Sendai framework? When we say every 15 years from last 30 years, the United Nations has actually had world conferences where they have focused on disaster reduction in the world. So they give certain guidelines to countries so that during a particular disaster, what needs to be done. If there are any good measures taken by one particular country and if it has worked in helping reducing disaster in one part, then that will be taken up as a good measure and they will try to teach that to all those countries which are willing to learn. This is voluntary, not binding, but it believes that the state has the primary role to reduce disasters and they have to identify these disasters and work against it. And earlier we used to see that whenever any framework was there, their focus was more on mitigating or after disaster what needs to be done. But today it is mostly about the risk factor. If we look at the priorities of action, we have to understand the disaster risk first, that is vulnerable areas has to be noticed. Then we need to improve our governance measures to manage disaster risk carefully. We need to invest not in post-disaster but pre-disaster. That is, reduction or prevention should be taken care. And you need to ensure that build back better in recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction as soon as possible so that there is reduction in disasters. So all this is very, very important whenever we are talking about disaster management. Sendai framework can be asked at any point, so please be careful. The next important thing is with respect to antibiotic prescriptions, which has actually led to people using it regularly without the prescription of the doctors. So even if there is any disease, say for example in a family one person is affected by a particular thing, and if the doctor actually gives some medication and after 1 or 2 years if that if in their family any other person get the disease. Similar symptoms. So they try to use the same antimicrobial or antibiotic prescriptions. So this has led to unlimited use. And when it comes to especially the poultries and all, they use as much antibiotic prescriptions that are given. This has led to the viruses and others getting resistant to these medicines. So now when you use these medicines, they are not working at all. It is believed that the best antibiotic prescription, that was the best. So no virus has developed resistance to that. Even that is getting resistant today because of excessive use. So we need to ensure that the Indian Medical Association and others are repeatedly requesting that please don't give prescriptions of antibiotics unnecessarily until and unless it is required. And most importantly, they are telling the pharmacies that you should not sell them until and unless the doctor prescribes it, and you have to sell only a limited one, not beyond that. So all these measures may help in reducing antibiotic resistance. Now we need to know about Bitcoins. India has decided to crack down. Last time we saw what exactly Bitcoin is, but now we are seeing that government is bringing regulations to ensure that the usage of this is limited, or we may completely remove it, because it is being used in Hawala transactions, and this has become a security threat to the country, where the transactions or usage in unwanted things are not being monitored by the people carefully. So given this, it's important for you to know or follow the regulations which India may bring up in future. I have already explained the same thing we are repeating, which clearly indicates that Bitcoins is very, very important this year. I know that the students still have some issues with Bitcoins. Whenever you have any issues, you can easily ask about it. Right, guys? So let's quickly move to the next issue, because India has decided to send notices and all, but under what and what is the measure, that is not clear. So once it is clear, we will be looking at that regulation in detail. 2017, we saw a lot of heat waves in the country, which also led to excessive rainfall and floods. People say that it is one of the hottest year that we have seen. So climate change, is it real? 2016 and 2017, two continuous years, we saw highest temperatures. But today, we have also seen in Jan that Africa, Sahara region of Africa, has got snowfall because the jet streams have come down. The Siberian continental polar air mass has shown its influence on Sahara as well. The Mistral and other cold winds which blow from Europe has brought some snowfall in Sahara. So, is this a real climate change, or is there any other phenomena? The doubts which people are raising or critics are raising has got some examples or some legitimacy today. But what is more important for us is we can observe melting, we can observe urban heat islands, or the same phenomena extended globally because of the emissions of greenhouse gases. So given this, many experiments have clearly shown that the emissions has led to a lot of problems. So let's hope the world community will realize it soon and try to understand this and reduce emissions. Especially the state governments through climate change conferences will work on this carefully. So guys, these are the issues that we need to see. Thank you. Thanks for watching.